Okay guys, welcome back to Abdul's Guide to Persuasive Speaking, Part 2, as we get ready to do our persuasive speeches in about a week or so. But I want to spend some time now is talking about the structure of argument. Now, this is going to sound a little weird, but a lot of times when we talk about what an argument is, we're not talking about an argument in the sense that two people are, butting heads and kind of going back and forth. Our arguments, we're talking about something completely different. Now, here's what I want you to do. You'll notice in the email that I sent you that had this lecture on it, there was another link. The link is to a British comedy group called Monty Python's Flying Circus. It is a skit. It is called the Argument Clinic. What I want you to do is watch that for about the first 4 or 5 minutes until you get to the end of the part where the guy's getting hit over the head with the hammer. Abdul, what are you talking about? Just play the Monty Python link, go to about the point when the guy gets hit over the head with the hammer, the cop walks in the room, and we'll be right back and I'll explain exactly everything. Okay, welcome back. If you didn't watch the Monty Python skit like I told you with the other YouTube link, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So pause this, go watch it, and I'll still be here when you get back. But what's important is, and the reason why I had you guys watch is, number one, Monty Python is freaking hilarious, loved it through college. But they also give you the definition of what an argument is, which is an intellectual process consisting of a series of statements to establish a proposition. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward stuff. But then we have to figure out what a proposition is. What's that? Well, proposition, ladies and gentlemen, is a declarative statement expressing a judgment the speaker wants the audience to accept as true. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means for it to be a proposition, it's got to have 3 elements. Number 1, it's debatable, expresses some kind of judgment, makes a judgment call, and it requires proof. You got to prove it. So if I were to say, this marker that I have in my hand over here, this is the best marker, yeah, there we go. This is the best marker, or sorry to say, this is a black marker. That's really not a proposition, because number 1, it's not debatable because it's black. I'm not expressing a judgment, and it really doesn't require a whole lot of proof. But if I were to say this is the best black marker in the known universe, that's different, because now I'm expressing a judgment since it's the best marker in the known universe. It's debatable, and I got to show some proof or evidence to back this up. And if you think about it, those topics that you got, those are all propositions. They are, because they all express a judgment, they're all debatable, and they all require proof. So whether you got a topic like, the drinking age should be lowered to 18, Donald Trump would make a good president, humans are not responsible for climate change, all those topics that you guys had assigned to you, those are all propositions. And they come in 3 types. propositions of policy, fact, and value. A proposition of policy says we should or should not do something, a course of action. A proposition of fact says something is true or false. A proposition of value says something is good or bad. But you can't debate anything, if it doesn't meet any of these criteria here. So, how do we set up our persuasive speech arguments? Well, in a nutshell, you've got two ways that you can do this. The first one is pretty much the standard argument. Which requires two steps. State your claim, or the main point that you're trying to make, and then you offer the proof to back it up. Those three main points. Really easy, really simple, really straightforward stuff. Now, if you want to shoot for a little bit better grade, I recommend this. The counter or refuting an argument. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means we argue our point, but we do it by showing the weaknesses on the other side. Almost kind of like jiu-jitsu. You use your opponent's strength against him or her. And this kind of has 4 steps to it. First thing we do is we state the position you're arguing against. State your position. Then after that, offer proof for your position. And then show how your side undermines the opposing viewpoint. Like I said, this is a little more involved. Now, the question is, as you sit there and look at that, how does that work? Well, you can leave the camera actually right there. For example, that first one, state the position you're arguing against. Okay, well, let's say my speech is the legal drinking age should be 18. So, if I was using a standard argument, I'd say, hey, the legal drinking age should be 18. Here are my 3 reasons why. Bam, bam, bam. But if I'm using a counter or refuting argument, side of the against, I start off by saying, some people say the legal drinking age, should stay at 21. I disagree. I think it should be 18. And as I give my reasons for why it should be 18, I also make it a point to offer and undermine why the other side is wrong. So I kind of do 3 and 4 at the same time. Like I said, it's a little complicated, it's a little tricky, but if you do it, you walk in with a chance of getting a much better grade than if you do the first one. This doesn't mean that you won't do well if you do this, and you can, but this one really tends to impress me. By the way, is all this making sense? Right, cool. Now, how do we develop our main points? Well, luckily, we have a number of different things that we can do in addition to our usual facts, data, statistics, etc., etc. First thing, or one way we can do it, is an argument by example. In other words, deductive reasoning which means we take, ladies and gentlemen, a specific instance and use that to draw a general conclusion. For example, I'm recording this at Ivy Tech, and so let's say I'm hungry. So after I get done, I take the great camera guy down to McDonald's at 16th and Meridian. I don't know what he ever did to deserve that, but that's where I take him. And then we both have McDonald's and we get sick. And we say, oh my God, McDonald's is horrible. We'll never eat at McDonald's ever again anywhere in Indiana. That might be jumping the gun just a little bit. Because can I really indict every McDonald's and say they're all horrible by just going to one? No. Now, let's say me and the awesome camera guy, we're in Chicago, we're driving down to Louisville, and we stop at every McDonald's on the way, on I-65, because we're insane. And we have no love for our lower intestines. And then we get bad service at every McDonald's. Yeah, we got more examples. We could probably make a better case. So if you're going to use example to help make your point, make sure you got enough of them going on. Now, just like that other one was an argument by deductive reasoning. Here's an argument by inductive reasoning. What exactly? Actually, I'm sorry. I got this. I was doing something wrong here. Like, that does not seem right. Induction, argument by example. Deduction, is this one, where we go from the general to the specific. In other words, what we say is true in most of the cases will be true in this one instance. How do we determine that? Well, there's this logical fact pattern that a bunch of logic philosophers came up with called the syllogism. And what that means is that we got three things going on here. We have what's called the major premise, a minor premise, and then a conclusion. Right, Abdul, that's great, but what does all that mean? Well, your major premise is sort of like your general statement, your general category. Here we go. My general statement, all geniuses are beautiful. Now, here's my specific instance. Here we go. Abdul's a genius. So, if our major premise is that all geniuses are beautiful, our minor premise, Abdul's a genius, what can we conclude? Of course. Abdul is beautiful. Now, there is one bit of problem with this logic here, and no, it is not number two, so don't even think about it. It's number one. Not all geniuses are beautiful. What is wrong with you people? Almost hurt. Some other things, real fast, real quick, as we get near the home stretch here. Some other ways we can make our arguments. We can do it by analogy, by showing how similar things have happened in other places. We can do it by cause and effect. How some things cause some things to happen, or other things are the effect of something happening. Or we can make an argument by authority, because we're actually citing people who are, experts in a particular field or area that help us back up our claim. But the big takeaway from all this right here is how to structure that argument, ladies and gentlemen, and how to put all this together. Now, a couple more things and we're almost done. what you want to be careful of when you are doing your research and put all this together is be mindful of what's called a fallacy. A fallacy is basically a fatal flaw in your logic that can destroy the whole argument that you're trying to put together. And so it's really important to know where these things are as you are putting your research and everything together. For example, there's the fallacy of hasty generalization. That's when we jump to conclusions too fast, too quick, or like I'll say, like my McDonald's example. There's a false analogy. As we try to draw comparisons between two things that really don't have much in common. There's the false choice. That's when we tell people they have two choices when in fact they have more. It's like politicians. Well, we can raise taxes or kick all the old people out of their homes. Really? Seriously? Come on. There's a little more to it than that. Number 4, the false authority. You try to cite somebody who's an expert, but in fact, they're really not an expert. There's the old slippery slope argument. If we do this, then this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, and the world will come to an end. So like I asked my dad when I was a teenager, hey Dad, can I stay out till 10? Like, really? Today it's 10 o'clock? What is it next? Tomorrow will be 10:30, then 11, then 2, then 12. Next thing you know, you won't be coming home. All right, that's kind of ridiculous. I told you guys you're going to be learning some new words and new languages today. The ethos, logos, and pathos, that was Greek. This is Latin. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc. That basically means that because one thing happened, whatever followed, that must have been the cause of it. In other words, correlation is causation. It's like me taking this marker and saying, hey, this marker will keep the Al-Qaeda terrorists away by me doing this. Does it work? Of course it works. Do you see the Al-Qaeda terrorists? No. Or my other personal favorite. My dad's driving and he can't find a house in the neighborhood, so he turns the radio down. Turn the radio down so I can see. One really has nothing to do with the other. My point. Because by that logic, ice cream sales cause murder. Because guess what time of year ice cream sales go up? Summertime. And when does murder go up? Summertime. Ta-da! Yeah. Here's another Latin phrase. Ad hominem. That means we attack the person who's making the argument as opposed to attacking the argument. It's like when people get personal. You guys have probably all had to deal with this at some point in time. It's the old red herring argument. In other words, people throw in stuff that's a total distraction, has nothing to do with the conversation at hand. Number 9, anybody who's ever worked somewhere, we call this the appeal to tradition. In other words, we've always done it that way. Yeah, you know what? We also used to burn people at the stake for heresy, but we don't do that anymore. Call me crazy. And finally, number 10, anybody who's a sports fan is familiar with this one. The old bandwagon. I never knew there were so many Cubs fans in America until the World Series came along. People need to know the Cubs were in Chicago. We're on the Cubs bandwagon. Now the Colts have one of these too. It usually starts in September, but it's usually done by about late October, November. But yeah, just because it's popular doesn't mean that it's right. So you want to be mindful. Like I said, this is not a complete list, but these are just some of the more common fallacies that tend to show up and can put students on a sidetrack. Any questions? Does all this make sense? Okay, couple of things before I let you guys go here. As you've seen the instructions that I sent you, all of you should have a speech topic based on that survey that you filled out. Now some of you might have been wondering, but Mr. Abdul, the topic I got wasn't the answer I gave. Yeah, I know. Because anybody can argue a position they believe in. True critical thinking means you have to advocate a position you don't agree with. Yeah, because I'm kind of a sneaky bastard that way. Now, these speeches will be 6 to 8 minutes long, and all the instructions are there, and they're going to encompass everything we've talked about all semester long. So from day one until now. Research, delivery, organization, all that. And there's even an impromptu element in there, because I reserve the right, while you're giving your speech, to interrupt you and ask you questions. Well, that's where that impromptu element comes in. Now, I won't be a jerk and ask you something that I know for a fact that you don't know, but I expect you to be well versed enough on your topic to answer my questions without a hitch. Because remember, this is 20-25% of your grade. If you miss the speech, it's even more of your grade. But I want you guys to do well. You all will do just fine. Like I said, any questions, any concerns, any problems, you got my phone number, you have my email, call me, let's get together, and we will figure it out. Now, just so you know, the class will be split into 2 groups. One group will go on the Tuesday when we come back, the other group will go the following Tuesday. But nobody will know until the Monday after Thanksgiving. So that way everybody has to be on the same page and should be ready to go when we regroup next Tuesday in class. Questions, concerns, comments, curse words? Keep the curse words to yourself. I've heard them all before. I'll take all your questions. Just shoot me an email, text message, or give me a call. I'll see you guys when we get back after Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye-bye.